So get into this now. Just about every journalist, at least the ones I know, have struggled to get an interview with Jan Oberholzer after his departure from Eskom, the former Chief Operations Officer. Sudden departure. It came as a shock because he had just signed a 2-year contract with the utility. So, in a statement, Eskom saying that Oberholzer's separation was by mutual agreement. The Democratic Alliance spokesperson on public enterprises is Ghaleb Cachalia. He says he sat down with Oberholzer, who opened up about why he left the struggling power utility. Cachalia joining me now to share some of what was discussed in that conversation. Mr. Cachalia, thank you very much for your time. I suppose I should thank you for sharing. You had something of an exit interview with Mr. Oberholzer. Was he pushed or did he leave by mutual agreement, as the utilities leadership claimed in a statement?
Let me just correct something. I didn't have a sit-down interview with Mr. Oberholzer. I communicated with him via WhatsApp, and he responded to me.
Okay. And what did he say to you? Was he pushed, or did he leave on his own volition?
Well, in his words, he said that he left of his own volition, that he felt that he could do more, be of more benefit to Eskom from the outside, as he put it, and that his departure had nothing to do with events at Koeberg. That is the gist of what he said.
This is the same person who signed a 2-year contract with Eskom just last month, Mr. Cachalia, and that contract was for him to oversee a number of projects, key projects, it was said, in Kusile and the Koeberg nuclear power plant. Did you probe further as to why he suddenly thinks that his departure will serve Eskom better as an outsider?
No, I didn't, because I read between the lines in the nature of his communication that was all he was going to tell me, and I wished him well. My view is that you're absolutely right. He signed it. Mr. Oberholzer had been, let's be clear, had been with Eskom for 30 years. He retired at the age of 65, as he was due to. He then signed a consultancy contract of 2 years, as you correctly say, with Eskom to deal with issues at Kusile and issues at Koeberg. Very shortly thereafter, he truncated that particular contract as he would have it on his version. He says Eskom did not truncate that contract. He sought to leave. And it is quite puzzling, as you correctly put it, that someone who sought a contract in the first instance then very shortly thereafter seeks to leave. If he says he could do more, better, if you like, to help Eskom from the outside, who knows, perhaps he's got a further contract or additional work with a private company that will assist from the outside. That is a possibility. It may be, he may see to it, he may see that as being having more traction than working from the inside. But this is conjecture, and I don't know any better than you in this regard.
Okay, so there's one critical element, though, and that is that a 2-year contract was signed. Does this mean, then, that this separation by, and I quote here, mutual agreement, does this mean that he won't be paid for the remainder of that 2-year contract?
It's a question that I will have to ask of the minister who's responsible for Eskom, Pravin Gordhan, and I hope that he will reply.
Something that was gleaned from the document that you had put together. I'm saying I gleaned that from that document. There does seem to be some suggestion of a link between his exit and the refurbishment of the Koeberg nuclear plant. Was it a question you asked of him?
He already preempted it by saying it didn't have anything to do with that. Now, my view is simply this. Mr. Oberholzer, as I said, has been with Eskom in various guises for 30 years. He grew up through the ranks. He ended up, before he was CEO, as being head of transmission. He learned his business in the transmission business of Eskom, which is actually only 15% of Eskom's business. He is not an expert, in my view, on generation. He's an expert on transmission. So what he would be able to add in terms of fixing Cachalia, which is a generation plant, and fixing a nuclear plant, which is a very specialized plant, is open to comment. I'm not sure that there would be any particular need for Mr. Oberholzer's talents in that regard, having come from the transmission business and not really being an expert in generation.
Yeah.
Now, experts in generation are few and far between in Eskom. The last head of generation left because the pressure was too high. His health was being affected and he resigned. So there is an absolute need, not for people on contract and special contracts after they retire, but somebody who's a dyed-in-the-wool transmission man or woman, someone who knows what they're doing.
Interesting indeed. Your conversation with him, although via WhatsApp, as you've just told us, was somewhat detailed and analytical. And the reason I say that is because you are saying that he gave you something of an insider's view on load shedding. What is he forecasting?
No, he didn't give me an insider's view on load shedding, and he didn't care to forecast anything in particular. The forecasts on load shedding are plain for everyone to see. We have a generation gap of significant proportions. We have had a slight amelioration of that in the past in terms of the energy that was available to us, but that has now come to an end. We are facing continuance of a cold, hard winter in terms of energy and thereafter, precisely because we don't have the wherewithal in terms of money to fix what is wrong in Eskom. We don't have the wherewithal in terms, as I've alluded to, in terms of generation experts, in terms of the experts and the expertise to fix what is wrong. And we don't seem to have the political will to do so. The political will seems to be misplaced and focused at giving us the wrong information, that all will be well. Well, all is not well, as you know it, and I know.
Well, the Minister of Electricity somewhat admitting that load shedding will not be ended this December, which was quite ambitious to begin with. But again, Mr. Cachalia, I'm interested in what Jan Oberholzer had to say on the question of load shedding. What are his exact views?
I can't help you there because we didn't have a conversation on load shedding. We had a conversation on his departure.
Okay. All right. Then is it presumptuous then of me, again, I'm asking these questions based on what I read from the document that was supposedly put together by yourself. The semi-privatization of SOEs, such as Eskom, was another topic that was dealt with. What were his views?
No, as I say, there was no discussion any further than his departure, the reasons for his departure, and around his contract. Nothing more. There was no discussion around anything further. It was restricted to that particular issue.
All right. Okay. Well, I think that would be the best place to leave the conversation then. Ghaleb Cachalia, the DA's spokesperson on public enterprises, thank you very much for your time.